going your own way can feel like a daunting task. At our Live For eLab, we learn the practical ways to go about starting your own business and setting yourself up for success from the beginning. It's powerful, it's intentional, and it's changing our community one business at a time. I hope you'll join us. Hi, welcome. Hang out. Take a seat anywhere. All right, a couple new faces, a couple older faces. Thanks, guys, for joining us again. And so we still didn't get around to getting name tags, but eventually we'll...
Next year.
Next year? Okay, lots of things for improve. Version 2.0 is going to have lots of improvements on it. Thank you all again for joining us. And so I thought we would start, because it's... Some people have, kind of been in and out. We'll reminder my little foundational blocks, and I leave them up over here for where we've been thus far before we kick into Tony's favorite topic ever, which is coaching. So reminder of my kind of head topics where we've been is just kind of like brainstorming, foundational principles, right, about entities, making your first sale, which I had a good conversation here that we are very, very close to making a first sale, mindset stuff. Today's going to go into a little bit into mindset, standardizing SOPs, creating standard processes, and then financial statement breakdown, understanding those. So this segment is sort of born out of the idea that unfortunately with a lot of brand new baby business owners, I see a lot of people believe that they need a coach in order to get them to the next level. And not that I think all coaches or all coaching is a bad thing, but I think a lot of people jump before they're understanding what it is they need, because they just think that like somebody is going to fill the gap for them instead of fixing what they don't know. This is going to be one of those, our panelists are going to be way more exciting than my little monologue, because they're way more exciting in this realm than me. So that's you guys. And they're both very tall. So I'm going to also stand and they're going to sit, and then we're all going to look like we're the same height. But I have two panelists, thankfully, tonight. So I'm excited. I have some great bios here that I will read and bring you guys up. First, we have Will Hoffman. He is a financial advisor. You want me to say 23 years? Because then we start aging you when we do 23 years of experience. Founder and president of Hoffman Wealth Management, and his firm works with busy families and active retirees, helping them navigate complicated scenarios of wealth while creating the life that they desire. He is the host of a podcast, Wealth on the Move, which is how I met him. And he is the father of Leah, Miles, and Nolan, which sounds like his greatest life accomplishment. And when he is not coaching youth sports teams, he is an active marathon runner. Wow. He has done 7 marathons, all fundraising for either the Children's Tumor Foundation? Tumor. This is, okay. Tumor.
I didn't type it.
Tumor Foundation.
I didn't spell check it.
And 2 organizations, and the NFCA of Pittsburgh, 2 organizations dedicated to curing and helping people live with neurofibromatosis, a birth defect that affects his oldest son, Liam. And then we have Pete Schramm. Thanks for joining us, Pete. Pete is a farm-raised founder, best-selling author, and award-winning speaker whose personal mission is simple: nobody should have to navigate their professional journey alone. He is from Butler, Pennsylvania, so local to us. And so he has gone from basketball courts and then to boardrooms around the world. He has delivered 125 keynote speeches. I have no idea why he's here with us, guys. Okay? Way crazy. 125 keynotes, grown 5, 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses and portfolios, and empowered thousands through his book. Did you bring a book with you tonight?
I have some bookmarks.
Okay, he's got bookmarks. All right. He's got a book we're going to have to get, Pathfinders, Navigating Your Career Map with a Personal Board of Advisors. He has a podcast, and it has a leadership development platform, Latitude. And Pete attributes much of his current work and lifelong success to his great experiences that he had professionally. He was an engineer turned leader at AK Steel, 26, Lockheed Martin, MTech, Kinetic, I'm saying all these words, and ETC. And he has led large teams, grew his portfolio, and helped keep the good guys safe. He hails from Sewickley Academy Catholic University and serves on the board of his high school alma mater, the HCAF and the Rotary. Thank you, guys. Come on up. Yeah. These are really big bios today. Okay, so my first question that I ask all my panelists when they come up is, because we're speaking to a room of mostly brand new baby entrepreneurs or people who like want to get started, my big hope in doing this was that I feel like I've screwed up lots of things along the way, so if I can help somebody screw up less, that's my goal. So my big first question is, what is the one thing that you wish that you knew when you were starting out on your entrepreneurial journey?
I wish I knew how hard I was going to have to work. I probably took that for granted immediately. I went in business on my own because I just am fiercely independent. Saw a gaping hole in our profession and wanted to go fix it, and thought that just fixing that hole was going to be easy, and didn't realize the effort, especially the effort of a 24-year-old in a very stodgy old man profession that I was going to have to navigate hard. And thankfully I've done it and built a tremendous business, have a successful team and a developing team that you talk about mentoring, that I'm proud to mentor. I hope they realize they mentor me as much as I'm teaching them, I hope. But yeah, how hard this was going to be, how many sleepless nights, how many early mornings, how many anxiety-filled nights was going to be involved in this process, and still involved in this process after 23 years.
Wow, that's great.
Same for me.
Same for me. Come on now. You got to give us something new.
So growing up on the farm, they don't teach you a lot about starting a business. Engineering school, undergrad and grad school, they still don't teach you a lot about building a business. And then building robots for the military and leading teams program management wise, they don't teach you a lot about building a business. So the very first thing, they tell you about this thing, business development. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. You're talking to people and you're shaping proposals, but still these are, 10, 50, $100 million deals, which, I haven't gotten to that point in my business personally yet. So the biggest thing for me was marketing, right? To understand that everybody doesn't automatically know what you're doing and how it works and who it benefits. And so I had to teach myself marketing. The follow-on piece to that was that a no is okay, and that relationships are very, very important. Whenever I first started, I was like, okay, got to build this product, and I will build it, and then they will come, right? Because that's what happens a lot of times. Never, maybe. And so then I had to say, okay, it's okay if somebody says, hey, this product, this software as a service is not for me. Okay, then what's the next step from there? What does the talk track go to? And to really emphasize the importance on the relationships. But I initially said that comment in jest. Hands down, hardest thing I've ever done, building a business.
Wow. Just in case anybody thought it was easy out here, right? Okay, so, the topic of tonight, which is, what I wanted to talk about was, obviously we're talking about coaching and mentorship. And so did you have a stage, or, maybe you're in that stage now in your journey where you thought, I just need somebody to help me? And if so, did that come immediately in the form of getting a coach, or what did you do when you kind of hit that wall? And we talk about just how hard it is to be a business owner. What did you do? Did that look like I need a coach, or I just waved my hand in the air?
First, it started with hiring.
Okay.
And hiring a team to do what I couldn't do and be better at it than I was. And then I realized I haven't managed anybody before. So that was, 22 years into this, I was when I sought out a coach.
Okay.
And sought out a coach that was specific to my profession, had done my profession, was aligned with a team of other coaches that were coaching folks in my profession. So even if he didn't have a solution for what I was trying to endure, he had a team behind him that was finding solutions or had other stories of what we were trying to accomplish or endure that he could rely on and help with. And that was a big turning point. He immediately had seen some things that, when you're in it, you don't you don't see. And he had taken some things that were really obvious to him that weren't obvious to me or my team at all, and immediately put a Band-Aid on them and fixed them. I shouldn't say put a Band-Aid on, he fixed them. And we saw immediate success because of how obvious they were to him. They were obvious to our clients or potential clients, and they were just things that we had missed, whether it was my own ego, whether it was lack of time or resources, that he was able to put a patch on and fix immediately that got us started in a better direction, and we saw some immediate success, immediate increase in client acquisition, immediate increase in revenue.
And let me clarify. So you said after you've been in business for 22 years,
Yes.
then this is when you
And
decided to seek out coaching. Yeah.
I probably should have done it earlier.
No, I mean, I think that's the thing though, is you're like, okay, it wasn't like you just did it right off the
Sure.
rip. Yeah, you
No,
were like,
it was.
I struggled for a long time.
I'd always had mentors.
You're like, I struggled for 22 years. I was hitting my own head.
I had always had mentors.
Okay.
I have a mentor who I grew up across the street from, who's in my same business, who has always been a great resource to me, and given me that tough love and helping me cut through the crap in a lot of regards when it comes to our profession. But it was mostly around the investment management portion, not the managing people and working with folks or the client communication. It was, seeing the market and helping to navigate that part. So, quite frankly, he would have been a lousy people coach when it comes to the other stuff. But he was great at helping me develop the skills and things necessary to manage money, but not necessarily manage people.
Interesting. Very cool.
Before we
How about you, sir?
I'm going to hand out the bookmarks.
Look at it. There he goes. He's got bookmarks.
A lot more sense. There we go. Take them.
Yeah.
Here, one for you, one for you. And what I say is, here we go. You can buy as many copies of the book as you want. We can meet up for coffee, and I'll bring a signed copy for you as well. QR code on the back. And so, whenever we think about these coaches, you alluded to it, right? Not just one, and have the right person for the right role. And so the book talks a lot about a personal board of advisors. And this is something that I had to learn the hard way. And the whole business really started from the first couple of days of my professional journey at Lockheed Martin. So big defense contractor, walked into my boss's office. I'm like, hey, how can I be the best employee he ever had? He said, go get a mentor. I'm like, cool. I've heard of that word before. What does that mean? Where do I find one? What do we talk about? And then I just kind of stumbled through this process and learned that there's a lot of phonies along the way. You alluded to this earlier. In the book, we talk about a 14-point checklist of what are those non-negotiables for me as I'm building a relationship with each of those individuals on my personal board of advisors. To get to the question of the coach piece, remember my last response where I said I didn't really know much about that marketing thing and just learned how to spell sales after I started? It's remarkable whenever you say, hey, I'm starting a business. Everybody thinks you have oodles and oodles of cash. Right. And it's like...
And everybody's an expert.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Everybody's an expert, right?
I kid you not that I got multiple proposals, unsolicited, by the way, for 5, 6, 7-figure coaching contracts, and they guaranteed I was going to have $15 million of revenue by yesterday. And I'm like, wow, this is absolutely the best snake oil I've ever seen in my life. And so that was the first piece, and I'm a little bit stubborn. I'm a lot of bit stubborn. I don't know if anybody else can check that box. So a couple of my friends were on their business journeys, and they said, I'm going to get a coach. We need to grow on social media, and they chose LinkedIn. And so one of my friends said, hey, I'm gonna get this LinkedIn coach. I said, that sounds slimy as all get out. He's going to take your money and run away. I followed up with her 11 months later, and she said, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. And I said, all right, well, I highly value your thoughts, inputs. And so then I said, hey, let me work with him. And so that was my first experience with a coach, was to grow on social media, specifically on LinkedIn. Had no idea what this meant outside of sports, right? Playing basketball and track up to the collegiate level, and then all around the world as well. So I'm like, okay, I get an idea of a coach. But just like you alluded to, with the gym reference, learning how to use a machine is super fantastic. using the machine consistently and persistently is what actually matters. So that was the first coach, and that would have been 2 years into my full-time journey. And, please reach out on LinkedIn. You can see my featured post and scroll over. It's a little bit hidden. You'll see the first selfie video Pete did on LinkedIn. And it's like the worst lighting, acoustics, angle, background, everything. And I don't know, you might have actually seen that one. And then you fast forward and it's like, it took a little bit to get better, but I just kind of stumbled through. And I think it was like the first 115 days-ish of the journey that I would do another one of these crappy videos and just try and share something and max out the character count and do pretty much like 9 out of 10 things wrong on LinkedIn consistently, not engaging with other people's posts, not doing the stuff that you're supposed to do. The only thing I was doing was coming up with, maybe it's 8 out of 10 things wrong. So I was doing something consistently, and I was coming up with thought-provoking content. The second coach was on the sales side, because again, they didn't really teach you this selling thing. And so it was Ethan Nicholas. Anybody know Ethan from Pittsburgh Business Exchange? He became one of those mentors and guides in one of the areas of my personal board. And he kept talking about Sandler this, Sandler that, and then Vistage. I'm like, what in the world? And he says, oh, well, just go talk to him. And so I met Dan Hudock through the leadership Butler County. And I hit it off with Dan, and I think you've worked with Dan as well. And for your point about the alignment, you gotta be able to connect. And if somebody's read the book Blue Fishing, they talk about this concept called a chug test. And this is just very simply, could you sit down and have a drink? Alcoholic, caffeinated, non-water, whatever. Could you sit down and have a drink with them? Or would you be like, no, I can't stand this? And so that was the second one. And that came probably 3 years into business. And it was at the point of I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. And I was frustrated by not getting to where I wanted to get to. And I look at it from, did I need to form new habits? Did I need to form new skills? And sometimes it's not a coach, but it's just that accountability buddy or somebody to say, hey, I'm alone. Does anybody feel that on this entrepreneurial journey? Mm-hmm. You're like, son of a gun. Maybe you say other colorful words. Those are okay too. But you just need some people that get it. And they're in the trenches and be like, hey, I'm just having a rough day. We do this sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And just say, I just need to chat about a couple of things. And so to have those individuals that are in your corner, and sometimes they're going to provide feedback, and sometimes they're just going to listen, and there'll be a punching bag. But it is a tough journey, and the loneliness factor definitely feeds into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've said that, and we talked about that a couple months ago when I was talking about mindset and healthy mindset, is that, one of the things people don't tell you in being an entrepreneur, particularly if you consistently continue to be an entrepreneur and grow, is that it does become incredibly lonely because you recognize that most people are just very unwilling to do the hard work. And the more that you put in that hard work, the more you just naturally outgrow the other people that you thought were the people you could have had a drink with, and you're like, that's cool, but they also are, my favorite, like an Eeyore, and they just are like, oh, my life sucks, So.
I was the only one to use that. Right?
No, I always talk about people being like Eeyores, like they just drain the life out of you. You're like, they're never happy. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, life is so good. Why are you so sad?
There's another book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. I don't know if anybody's heard of that one. I have a whole slew of books, so the longer you sit here and listen,
it's okay.
the longer also
Build the library.
But it talks about this idea of less but better. So at Lockheed, they teach us about this thing, Lean Six Sigma, do more with less, make it repeatable. Absolutely love that. But as you're talking through that point, we have decisions that we have to make in life. And especially with coaches and mentors, is it a yes, a no, or a hell yes? And if it's not a hell yes, we really have to consider if it's worth putting our precious mental real estate into that relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, particularly when it's a hell no. And that's where that gut check where I was saying, like, sometimes where you have that initial where you're like, oh no, like you should walk the minute away. You feel that. And I think so many times we're like second guessing ourselves. It's like, no, that was actually a like complete bad option. I love that. Yeah, really should be a hell yes. Okay, so you said you're using a coach now. Is that correct? Okay, yeah. So how long were you working with the person until you felt like you were making progress? in that journey? Like, what was the expectation laid out with you, and how long did you feel until you were like, okay, now I feel like I'm progressing in this relationship in a positive way? And
my current coach, Jason, was actually the second coach with the organization that we signed up with, because the first one just wasn't a fit. He was not aligned with our goals. Nice enough gentleman, but was trying to get our goals to him. And to me, a good coach, a good trainer, I use a trainer when I get ready for marathons. Your goals become their goals. That's kind of, not to be self-promoted, but that's the way we approach our business with our clients, is their financial goals become ours, and then it's up to us to get them there. So we needed an alignment change, and almost immediately, Jason was able to dive into our process and see where the weaknesses were and why we were plateauing. We weren't experiencing frustration other than the lack of growth. So he was able to immediately see, you guys just are not proprietary enough with your process. And if you've ever Googled or tried to work with a financial advisor, you can go on to one of our websites and you're on all of our websites, because they all look the same. We all have the same process. We all do the same thing. And we weren't doing the same thing, but we weren't proprietary enough with our process. And he said, you got to name this, you got to market the hell out of it, and you need to describe it every chance you get. That intro, Jason wrote, because it needed to be proprietary towards what our goals were and what our process looked like. So we saw immediate traction whenever we talked about these things. And then we're just able to start compounding all of that as we grow.
Yeah. So it's still a relationship you're utilizing,
Yes.
meeting with regularly, and still finding progress in that process.
And sometimes he meets with our whole team. Sometimes it's just me.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's one-offs with just me, especially if there is a decision I need to make or an issue that we're having that I can talk to him. He actually just bounced a business idea off of me that he had come up with. So it's starting to become a mutually beneficial relationship that I lean on hard.
Very nice. Now you've mentioned you've had two. You mentioned so far we've got LinkedIn coach and sales coach. How long, once you started working with these people, until you saw what you would say is a marketable or marketed, improvement in whatever it was you were seeking coaching about? And are you still working with them, or did relationships end?
So still working with them, not as consistently. It's more on a quarterly basis for interactions. He agrees. And it was important if we break it down by each conversation, each month, and then each year. And I think it was valuable that I saw value and there was benefit more than just fun from each conversation. And one of the questions that some coaches will ask is at the end of it, was this valuable to you? And don't blow smoke up their butt. If it wasn't, then just say, we need to redirect, we need to do a re-baseline. But every single conversation, I put something into my mental toolbox. After a month, I was able to start seeing progress and results. And after 1 year, so it took a year for me on both of those fronts to see a transformation. Whenever I looked at myself from before, whether it was numbers, whether it was revenue, whether it was the habits, whether it was the understanding, it was the mindset of just being okay and getting rid of that head trash. That was a big one. There's one other coach that I'll bring into the loop here, and it was somebody that I reached out to for 2 years saying, hey, can I talk to you? Hey, can I talk to you? And so finally she got back to me, developed a fantastic relationship, and then she became my coach to give my first TED Talk. And I don't know if anybody's done that before, or what kind of rigor goes into that process. It was 12 weeks of intense, on top of the day job and everything like that. And some people didn't make it through. And so that was somebody who I still keep in touch with. And I think she now has a business of training people for TED Talks and other things. So if you're interested, I'll connect you. But that was another one where we were going through the trenches together. And that was, we didn't have a ton of time, but we saw a big transformation from day one. And there was some prep work prior to that. But then, on game day in front of 4,000 people.
Wow.
But that was a couple of different instances.
Very cool. So intense work on both of your parts to make anything happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's, back to personal choices and responsibilities. It's not like we just wake up and that coach just magically waves their magic wand at us, right?
They don't do the work for us.
Yeah.
That's the kind of coach I'm still looking for.
Yeah, right? Me too. I'm still waiting on that one to
I
get
go back
there.
to, and you played sports. I always benefited from, coaches see things in yourself that you don't see.
It's true.
When I was a basketball player, if it wasn't worth 3 points, I wasn't doing it. And that's not what they saw was going to be my best use. I was a defensive
Did you play
specialist.
basketball as well? Oh, so I just happened to be with the tallest people in the world here today. I'm like, both basketball
Our
players.
alma maters actually squared off in the Whitfield semifinals last year. Which
Okay,
was kind of cool.
Okay. I have no idea what any of that means. But
The two high schools that we went to played against each other deep into the season.
Yeah, deep into the season.
thank you. Yeah, and I'm like, oh.
So, I guess that has benefited how have found or looked for coaches or learned from coaches is okay. That my high school basketball coach saw something different than what I saw as my talents, and he was right. He put me in a position where if I succeeded, the team succeeded. So now in business, I'm able to be a bit more open when talking with my coach, saying, okay, you see what I don't, and your job is to put me in a position to succeed.
That's great. Yeah. So, not just outside of coaching, because not everybody's going to find right from day one a coach or be financially viable to even employ a coach, because most of the time we're usually paying for that service. What about other just communities and that you guys, and I know you're going to have a lot on this because, obviously it's like, but what about you? What are other communities that you guys been a part of or intentionally sought out where you've found benefit that maybe, if people are not involved right now or they're not yet to the point where they need a coach, but what were some positive steps you took at least to be around the right types of people in your early years journey?
Being around my peers in my profession has helped. I know that becomes a bigger challenge, but also, my dad was an entrepreneur. He had his own business for 50 years. So watching his successes and struggles was something that I was able to learn from, regardless of us being in different businesses. I'm really blessed with a great group of friends who we don't let each other get too high or too low. So they're able to see my strengths and weaknesses. Ironically, most of us grew up playing sports together, so we have had that experience together and building towards something, even though we're not anymore. And quite frankly, at home, every relationship has a rock and a kite, and typically we're the opposites at the right times. Every time I sign up for a marathon, I tell my wife, you probably needed to be a better rock than you were when I was hitting, yes, I'll do this marathon and I'll try this Ironman or something like that. But she is able to keep me grounded and my eye on the ball. I know I say yes to a lot. I probably need to say yes to less. But to me, when I'm doing more in the middle of things, I'm better. My talents surface when I do that. But those are probably the biggest communities that may be a little disorganized, but that I've leaned on the most outside of the professional coaching.
Oh,
Another couple of books in this piece.
I should mention, so there's already a library started back in our boardroom for
Okay.
also. I'm a huge also book, so all of those will be recorded, and I will make sure most of them enter the library.
And then I'll have
for
another
like future.
dozen for you after
Yeah,
that.
and so
So I want to emphasize a piece that you shared earlier. Whenever it came to fakes and phonies with coaches and mentors along the way, so much so whenever it comes to groups. I had somebody onto the podcast yesterday, Vitaly Buford, and she wrote a book called Addicted to Perfect. That's one of them. And she talks about struggle with trust and perfectionism. And she goes through, I don't know if anybody takes Adderall, but she was up to 360 milligrams of Adderall a day and absolutely crushing it professionally. And nobody knew this other side of her. She ended up turning herself into rehab. And one of the things that we talked about on the show was a piece around some of those groups. And she said that so many of them just weren't for her. And somebody gave her a hard time because she said, this isn't for me anymore. It turned into one of those not a hell yes kind of conversations. And I think as we go through different phases of ourselves, our own journeys professionally, but also we're going to have that live to work, work to live. Sometimes you've probably been at like events. I mean, most of us have probably been here. It's event. And you're like, oh my gosh, did I need to do all that stuff? Sometimes yes. But sometimes you're like, I'm just going to stay home and chill. Sometimes you need that to fill your cup instead of the people to fill your cup. And I'm about as like extrovert as they come. And I still sometimes will be like, nope, not this one. I am out for this. And so if you give it a try, go to a couple of different sessions, but also setting those goals and expectations. I like to talk about SMARTY, SMARTY. Most people have probably heard of specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely, and yours. Make sure it's something that applies back to you and it fits into your larger vision, your career map, the second concept in the book. But thinking about it from that perspective, I wrote a list of the different groups.
I love lists.
Whenever...
you can't tell. I love lists. You can use the giant board if you want. I have markers.
Well, we can dive in deeper into any of them. So quick background on this startup journey for me. March 4th, 2018 is whenever I had an idea and drew a line in the sand and went inside and said, hey, I'm going to start a company. Then I Googled how to start a business. Over the next 3 years, I was working full-time while trying to figure out what the heck building a B2B SaaS tech company is. Still can't code my way out of a shoebox, but that's where the great team members come into play. So then at the end of 2020, beginning of 21 is whenever I came back to Pittsburgh as an adult. So pretty much every relationship is new-ish over the last 4 years. And it just comes down to the time, right? How much you put into it and how intentional you are and just being real and authentic. So some of the groups and communities that were very helpful and advantageous to me, the Butler County Chamber of Commerce, the North Pittsburgh Regional Chamber is also fantastic, but just check out your chamber and check out 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 other ones and see what's going on over there. The second one was Rotary Club. I don't know if anybody's been to a Rotary meeting. They're all over the world. It's kind of like the Catholic Church for business, I think, because you have them in every country. There's not necessarily a religious affiliation, but anytime I travel, I'm able to find a church and be like, oh, okay, I might not understand the language if it's in, what do we have, Thai, Filipino, Cantonese, French, bunch of different, Spanish, but there's a lot of similarities to the way we go through things. So you have that community built in. Faith is another one, whatever that might be, there's some kind of community there. And again, some of these are going to be for building the business, mastermind-ish sort of style, and some are going to be for filling your cup and not being alone. PHRA, Megan and I are part of that, Pittsburgh Human Resources Association. That was a big one to understand, hey, here's kind of sort of the space that we're in, and just getting feedback from so many people and building those relationships. And sure, some of them lead to revenue generating opportunities. Vistage is something that I've become part of, and it creates more speaking opportunities. I wrote you on the list. PBX, Pittsburgh Business Exchange, is one that I've gone in and then realized at this stage it's kind of nice for the fill the cup, but I'm not going to generate a lot of business from those smaller business owners. But gosh, is it fun to see so many of your friends at those places. Connectpreneur was a startup community back in the DC area. Think like 50,000 investors and people with startups that have been there, done that, failed, flopped, and flew past the moon with so much success. Conscious Venture Lab, Founders Boost. I don't know if anybody's heard of this one, but it's a free program. They did have a chapter in Pittsburgh, in the greater Pittsburgh area as well, similar to what Innovation Works does, IW does, but that's something to look at, a free resource for small businesses. The SBDC is something that is another free resource if you plan on doing business with the government in any capacity. The government literally spends money for each of these different chapters all around the country to help us little guys do work with others. So something that's really helpful there. I wrote down sports, right? It's a ditto on that piece. And then the last ones were on some of the volunteer opportunities where, if you're in a leadership role and your team's virtual or you're a team of one, it's sometimes nice to be able to participate and collaborate with others on a board of trustees, on a board of directors, on something like that, where maybe you're not the one that's totally in charge. And so to see how others are able to be leading, and you can be the sort of follower and an individual contributor again, or at this stage. And it's also nice to couple that in with supporting a good cause and kind of giving back to keep a little bit of that balance.
I love that. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, first off, this is my favorite. I think maybe I've met Pete in person once before. I've never met you and shook your hand in person. Kaylee, shout out to finding great panelists. You guys are awesome. I feel honored. Questions, comments, somehow we got, whatever this little community is that we just kind of happened upon. Wow, great. What do you guys have questions for these guys? Yeah.
So with saying yes to things, you commented on this and you kind of alluded to it too. How have you been able to say no to things? And is there that internal thing, like the vibe check with a person or a coach that kind of signals you to say, okay, maybe I shouldn't say yes to this additional thing? Like any pointers along that with saying no to more things instead of yes all the time?
I am an engineer, so love process, and will think through things. If I say yes today, if I say no today. If I say yes in a month, if I say no in a month. If I never say yes, what and I look at pros and cons, 1, 2, 3 for each of those 3 different flavors. But there's a big piece of the gut check, and there's a lot of things where we just have to make decisions, and we can get so caught up in, what did somebody say? Certain leads or opportunities might take you on a fishing expedition. And I said, I can relate to that.
As soon as I figure that out, I'll let you know. I know that at home, my team, and I keep pointing over here, Bryn from my marketing team came with me tonight. I shouldn't say she is my marketing team. She's my director. I know I say yes to
Team of
too
one.
much.
The whole team.
The part I struggle with there is when it comes to things that are going to generate revenue, whether how big or how small. I have a tough time saying no to clients that ultimately a year, 2 years, 4 years down the road, we will say we should have not have said no, had one leave and come back, that we shouldn't have said no to coming back, and it's now kind of a headache. So it is probably the hardest thing that I haven't dived in with my coach yet on how to start turning down clients that we know are not either we can't help or aren't going to accept our help, which is the biggest challenge. But time management is the next thing that I need to take on with my coach, and it's because I say yes to a lot. But again, I feel like that is when my talents surface. I feel like I want my boys to see that's, saying yes to things is how my talents are surfacing.
I'll speak to that because it's funny because we were just I was saying something similar to Nick here today earlier about saying no is that, I think one of the muscles that's very, very hard, particularly as an entrepreneur, is that, we know that obviously, I've mentioned, we're capitalists, right? Right. So none of us at this point, I don't think anybody in this room is sleeping at night if we never wake up another day and never work a day in our life, like everything's just gonna be okay. Like I'm not there yet, right? I don't know about anybody you, but like we're gonna have to get up out of bed and work at something, right? So as that, we're naturally, I think, looking for those opportunities, and so it's like shiny object syndrome. You're like, oh my gosh, well you could be amazing. Oh, you might be my client. Well, okay, it feels wrong, but oh, I'll say yes, and no, that and so we just want, because we want to kind of get in the right spaces and rooms, and again, that's where I think we just ignore what that inner person is. But to particularly, I think, with like opportunities or client relationships or even just personal relationships, we also have to be, and this is a little bit of a mindset thing, we have to be okay with other people not living up to the potential that we may see in them. And this is hard, and I think that the more that I grow as an entrepreneur is like I see this a lot. I mean, I see business owners who are exceptional at their craft, and they honestly can't get out of their own way to make that next right step, and they just keep making poor decisions, and it hurts me, but it's not my problem. And I think that's sometimes where we have to actually be okay with the no, and sometimes we're too nice and we say, we want to say yes because we believe that we can somehow help them, but in reality, just like what we say, you can only lead a horse to water. Like you cannot make everybody see the potential that maybe even you do see in them. And I think for some of us, a lot of times entrepreneurs, we're generally very optimistic people. So I tend to always oversee the best in people, and I see greatness. And sometimes the reality is some people just will never get to where they can see that greatness.
You can look at a referral partnership and say, hey, you don't actually meet all of our criteria, but here are a couple of others to have a conversation with. And I think partnership and referral programs can either be really, really great, like 5 to 7% of the time, but usually they're a waste of time. So that was another kind of, oh my gosh, shiny object in the entrepreneurial world. And so I think we've just redone everything on the partnership program for us from that side. But it's just one way of saying, hey, you don't meet our criteria. Yeah. You don't have to know that all the criteria is, hey, you're a bit of a jerk. That's something to think about.
Yeah, it's great. Anybody else have any questions, thoughts? Yeah.
We've learned that coaching that has somewhat of a niche expertise is useful. What would drive you to choose coaching versus a fee for service or outsourcing or a collaborative? I don't want to do the stuff. I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to do it. It's not where my area of expertise. So why would I, if I were starting, let's say, a strategic planning consulting firm, why would I hire a coach to help me think through that versus fee for service, like hiring somebody to do the thing until I hire in somebody? I
think that's a great question. I mean, I'll start there. I think you actually, and you can probably tell all of us, I actually think you should just hire the person. I don't think
that's
that.
What I think too.
I
I never even considered using a coach because I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough confidence. So maybe that's it for me, but I'm curious for just more broadly speaking, what would guide you all into choosing one or the other?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that too. Because
I agree with what Kelly said. I would hire the person. I did hire the people first and the coach second. And that hiring process for me was values driven first, not necessarily knowledge or talent driven. Somebody that fit into our culture from a value standpoint, who I didn't have to worry about trusting either with their time or their engagement or with our clients. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, my 3 teammates, they can run that business without me, without question.
He's just very needy right now.
It's okay.
But yeah, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, my 3 teammates could step in.
Yeah.
I hope they would miss me, but from an operations standpoint, they may get more done without me. we can finally say no and fire that guy, and they would probably.
They
but-
might fire that person
right,
before you,
they might.
actually. They might.
But that was what was important to me from a hiring standpoint. And then I looked at it and said, holy cow, I hired 3 really dynamic folks, 2 of which are just 24, and I'm 47. How do I manage somebody half my age in a very stodgy profession that isn't always cutting edge when it comes to the technology that they just learned for 4 or 5 years, and now I'm telling them, yeah, you wasted your time. I'm not going to tell them they wasted their time.
You're young in the financial
I am.
the financial
I'm like
advising
a
profession.
Unicorn. I'm a unicorn. Most of my peers that were my age that I started with got wiped out in 2008. And I am a very unique combination of still really, really, really young. And
The financial advisor world is really old.
Really
That's
old.
Just like accountants. Like,
what's the phrase? Male, stale, and pale.
yeah.
I can't do anything about 2 of those, but I won't be stale. And that's again, like a unicorn, wanted to make sure that we were in a position to succeed. We actually, because of their ideas, we had a business restructure that we kind of changed how we were affiliated, so we didn't stay stale.
That's great.
And we could do some things that we know that our clients need. We know that the marketing is changing on, and I refuse to sit there and let that stodgy group of decision makers put Bryn in a box and say, no, you can't do those things. She's too good at what she does. Nico they're too good at what they do. And that all just strictly came from hiring values first. Talent
That's
and
important.
knowledge second.
Culture is so
Yeah.
important inside organizations. That's a
And then
great
hire the
option.
coach. That would be that was what worked for us.
Yeah, that's great.
I've learned the hard way that hiring the wrong person is worse than leaving the position open and doing the work yourself. I also want to talk about the difference between kind of mentor, advocate / sponsor and coach. And sometimes we use these interchangeably, but the coach is never really going to tell you what to do. They're going to help guide you on this journey. And I think that was a big aha moment for me on this. Now, sure, you're going to have a basketball coach that tells you how to shoot a free throw the right way, sure. But I think it's one of those things, whereas a mentor is going to help share some perspectives, experience, insight stories, and kind of guide you in a, if you do this, if X by Y, then Z, thinking about my risk and opportunity management background. And they'll also kind of share. I love the idea of having a functional mentor, and you'll see another one of the board seats is a cross-functional mentor. So somebody that's been in my shoes and lived there before, and somebody who's taken a very different path. So if I'm in engineering, then this person's from marketing or legal or a different kind of background. I also think about it from the tactical versus strategic aspect of things. If this is something that is going to take up my precious time and my hourly rate, and somebody else can do it at a lower hourly rate, boom. Let's set those goals and expectations, have those process procedures in place, and get that off my plate as soon as possible. The other side of that coin is on the strategic side. Is this something that I should take on and I should own and I should be responsible for? Now, maybe we revisit in 6 months and a year, 2 years, 3 years, and maybe it should go off my plate later on. But as long as you have and the other thing is watch out for certain people that'll do things for free. I'll just share the point of not all created equal.
And you had mentioned something in listen, just because I have a license doesn't mean I have all the good financial ideas in the world. But I take a lot of exception to the financial coaching part of this profession because they have no rules. It's complete lawlessness. I'm sure the person you had up here was more than qualified and
yeah, I
outstanding.
totally understand what you're saying. Yep.
I'm sure you see it in your profession. Folks that watched a YouTube video, did a search on ChatGPT, and now they make a video on which business structure you should create, doesn't make them an expert.
In their eyes.
And I shouldn't even say an expert.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to be an expert. we have licenses that govern the way we have to behave and have to act, and we have to be doing what's in our client's best interest. A financial coach can share an Excel spreadsheet on a budget, but they're not invested in your success the way that a professional is. Quite frankly, I think it's what's wrong with medicine. They're not invested in your success. They're just invested in your copay. So, you know, our profession has cleaned up significantly since we've had to operate on a fiduciary standard. I think a lot more professions should have to operate that way.
So we shouldn't hire a Dave Ramsey coach, somebody to grab the $300 Dave Ramsey
Right.
coach.
We could go into a lot. I
Yeah,
have
right.
my hand right now,
Yeah.
so I don't want to go into too much detail about the strictness of. You want to talk about?
With health
You want to talk about
Yeah.
stodgy though, and yes, you're right.
Like
Right.
Beachbody, oh, we're health coaches. No, you're
No,
a
you're-
salesman for Beachbody.
Right.
You sell Shakeology and P90X.
Yeah.
You're not a health coach.
Right.
Oh man, P90X was a jam though.
It was.
You know, it was a
Wow.
good time. Back in the day.
17 or 18 years.
Yeah,
ago.
probably like 20 some years ago, but yeah.
What was the guy's
She's gonna
name?
get it
Tony.
back when she
I don't
goes to
know.
boot camp on Monday.
What was
Yeah.
his name? Tony.
I don't know. I wasn't that much of a fan, but
But you're exactly right. It's you know a nutrition coach isn't going to
Do it
pull the
right.
spoon out of your mouth at midnight
Yeah.
when you have 3,000 calories of ice cream. Right.
It's true.
That's
But
one of the
I
things
think-
I teach is not all coaching is even the same.
right.
You know, like, I'm a credentialed nutrition coach versus somebody selling supplements who
Right.
claims to be like an Optavia.
Right.
Says they're coaches, but they really just sell a product.
Right.
And so making sure that like there is a credentialing behind it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, like I said, back to what you earlier asked was why should I move? And I think that's the point all of us are probably, you're hearing from us, is that the idea of a specific coach, one, it should be highly, you know, vetted first and looking for all of these different contexts that we're giving you, but also sometimes you're just looking for a hire for a position to do a job. You should do, though, the same level of research and, you know, things like that. Caveat, I will plug next month's episode of Live For, is that we are talking about hiring, and we're talking about people and what it looks like to strategically hire people into your business, whether that's an employee, a contractor, you know, and what the alignment values need to be. And so you just perfectly segued into what we will next month talk about, which is I think that's right. Am I right? Should I hire people? I have to check with Kaylee.
She went on the whole spiel and she's like, wait, am I even right?
Am I even right? I'm right? Okay. Hiring is next month, so that's our next month. Yeah. Any other questions for these guys? And obviously everybody will be around and can answer questions further and things like that afterwards as well. Yeah.
Where do you find time to live? I guess is the question. Like, how do you become an entrepreneur successfully and still have a family?
I started before I was married and had kids. So by the time, let's see, Liam was born in 2011. So I was 9 years in by the time we had a son, or had our first son. So I had started to realize the financial success. I can't say enough. My wife is incredible because she has never kind of said you're working too much. Now I self-govern that a good bit. You know, my calendar is probably, I'm very strict on my calendar now because I want to coach their sports teams. I want a front row seat for all of that with them. But I'm still staring down the barrel of college starting in 4 years, so I need to be ready to make those tuition payments.
That's terrifying.
But yeah, I mean, it was probably the best business and financial decision I made was who I married, and that has led. What's that?
You're rock.
Yes, well, sometimes I have to be the rock.
Right.
But like she wants a dog right now, and as much as we love dogs, you to say, we're traveling, we can't be good to a dog. Quit sending me dog photos because we're gonna end up with a dog.
He's gonna have a dog.
That's right. There is a dog in your future.
But that is probably, I should say probably, that has been the biggest business asset that I have acquired.
Like a partner.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, because I am not built for a business partnership. I watched my dad have a partnership that went south. Most do if they're not structured and strictly monitored. And I would rather hire and pay my people well enough that they don't want to be a partner when it comes to that. And I'm not built. I would be a lousy business partner. I know I would be. But self-aware is half the battle.
There you go.
Take that.
Not really.
I don't. Do you have? I was like, do you have a family?
There's me, myself, and I that I have to take care of.
Okay.
I will give an exciting update. In 1 week, I will have been dating Cambria for a year, and that's a really big deal.
Okay.
Because you can clap for that one, too.
Congratulations. Shout out to Cambria.
She's absolutely fantastic, but that was a tough piece in the earlier days and throughout is you're working, jump out of bed in the morning and you get to work. And sometimes you'll sneak in a workout, but that was something that would go away. And then you're up super late because you had a bunch of meetings. Now you have to actually get the work done. And then you start saying no to, going to family events and doing fun things with your friends and doing these other things. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have this huge to-do list. I find it helpful. And I'm still not great at this. But I also think back to whoever said the quote of what do you want people to say at your funeral? And think about that. Do you want them to say, hey, what's your name? Nick. Yeah, Nick, great dude. He worked a lot. Right? And so that's one thing to think about. So we prioritize those things that are most important to us. And whenever you put it in perspective like that, you say, okay, am I doing enough with the other? It doesn't have to be a ton of time. You're not like, hey, we're going to go for 3 months to Italy next year. That'd be really cool. Maybe that's not what the live piece looks like, but to be intentional with the time, I think another super, super helpful piece is the habits and the routines, right? This is where I'm blocking off this time. If something changes, okay, we're not going to eat dinner as a family as a one-off, right? But that's something that's very, very important. And I think the chaos and craziness is what was the end of most of my relationships. Just people didn't get it. I don't know that I was doing it all the right way on the business side, but it was the piece of, I am grinding truly, and I would just not be able to prioritize. So there are certain times whenever you're going to be in go, 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 and it's a tough time, but also take a moment to step back every 6 months, every 12 months. Mel Robbins does a great job on one of her podcasts with the annual year in review. I tweaked it, and we'll post something about it soonish. But it's that piece of looking back and say, hey, how far have I come? And think about it. We have any hikers in the room? Okay. We just went up to McConnell's Mills the other day. But what do you do whenever you're on a hike? And this is a really, really steep mountain, right? You're going. You're like, I'm out of breath. What do? You stop and you turn around and you look and say, son of a gun, look how far I've come. We got to do that in our business as well. Because we work, grind. And we run out of energy. And so before we totally burn out for the final time, we're not going to be able to reignite that fire, figure out, hey, what have I been doing? Is it the right stuff to be doing? Do I need to start, stop, continue, shift? That's where those coaches, advisors, mentors, different folks help us along the way. It's okay to work hard, but it's more important to have some kind of balance.
I obviously could speak directly to this, being that, I started unexpectedly self-employed when my youngest was 3. I think that we build the life that we want with intention. And then when we have more time to be able to give to more time, like and everybody will know, I'm in a grind season right now. My kids are raised. I don't have to be, but I'm also building a business that at the same time turns around and grabs all of them and brings them along at the same time. And so, but when my kids were babies and I wanted to make sure that I was there for every sports game, I said no, and I wasn't able to build as big or as fast as maybe I would have wanted to, but that was also my choice because I had babies and I had to take, babies with me. And so I also think we have to give ourselves permission to say not everybody can be in every season, all the time, and we can only do with what we have in our current capacity. And so if there's things that are more important, and our families should always be important, and then I will absolutely second what you said. I think it is not talked enough about that, particularly for a lot of entrepreneurs, that our home relationship, our spouse, our partner, is the number one absolute, and my husband is not here because he would never do something like this, he would die. Mr. Introvert. However, if anybody knows Don, knows that is absolutely the rock. And so you absolutely, that relationship and being on the same page and communication about where, I know things are done because I'm in this season and that's okay. I think that's just not talked enough about. It's very, very, very ultimate important. And it's actually, if you look, and I think you guys are the same, it's like if you start to read and watch other people who are at a success level, they all speak about it the same way. Mm-hmm. And they all say that, these crazy entrepreneurs are like, my spouse is my rock. My spouse is, we're super, they're, even if their spouse is not the public figure or whatever, but all these people that you're out there and you're like, oh, why are they all speaking about it? Because you just know how important it is to be on the same page.
Can I add to, this might be an unpopular opinion.
No?
I don't know that there is such a thing as work-life balance.
I agree.
I would agree.
Yeah.
So now that
Still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
well, so here,
I agree.
Analogies. So to me, if you want kids and you're in a relationship, you have to really want those children, or it's going to mess up your relationship. It's going to make it really, really hard, at least. Mm-hmm. Without intentional work and prioritization and communication and setting expectations, your relationship will go to shit. Same thing I would imagine with starting a business or climbing whatever career ladder is you have to really want it because it's going to be really fucking hard in the beginning. Sorry, my language.
It's okay.
And you have to have all those things in place. Mm-hmm. And having, my kids are 10 and 8.5, and I was working for 14 years. I'm not married anymore. It's not specifically around the kids per se, but it was around communication, expectations, and working as a partnership.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you have to have somebody who's going to be at home and not working and taking over everything, because I don't think that's most people's reality anymore. And so
Hard to live on one salary.
it's
Yeah,
very,
right.
especially when you're starting a business and you have no income coming in,
Right.
or very little income. And so also too, I think what you do can help you, what your business is, can you do little bits of it in the meantime while you're maybe wanting to invest in your family to then set you up for later.
Yeah.
But anyway, you gotta really want it and do all the things that they said.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think.
But we don't mind that.
I don't mind, right? And so I shouldn't say it's not that, but the idea of work-life balance is sort of
a fool's errand.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not balance. It's just choices. You're I choose in a period to have, this is where I'm going to make choices about personal lives and things, or I choose to do these things. But I don't know, the idea of balance it's 100% not. And I'm with you. I mean, you don't mind it. You're this is what I'm doing. But I think we've overused work-life balance a little too hard. And I've been I've done this myself, but I don't think that word is quite right anymore.
I was more on you network a lot. You go to events all the time.
It ebbs and flows.
So is that your way of getting out while still being able to be successful?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is
So you mold your world
Yes.
to help yourself.
Yeah, I look at it as like an integration or work-life assimilation, right? Those different things. And balance is not one size fits all. It's definitely a one size fits one. And so if you're able to weave and incorporate some of those business things and opportunities, volunteering I think is a great place to meet new people, to build relationships, and potentially build
Yeah.
awareness and potential revenue generation as well. Of course, how do you align it appropriately? But you just need those things where you step away from the business. I coached basketball at Knock High School the last couple of years, and I can't have a phone or a laptop on the basketball court. So that was kind of the point whenever I said I need something else to more intentionally cut me off.
That's why I like hiking.
Yeah, biking.
No signal.
Or hiking, hiking, a lot of places I go, there's no cell service.
Yeah, it's an intentional
So
cut.
I have no
Right.
choice but to,
Pottery's another really good one. Hands are down.
Pottery. What's up, Tom?
So, to go back to the work-life balance, do you feel like it's something that just comes as a day-to-day thing? Because I feel like work-life balance isn't like a good saying because, you have your needs and wants, but sometimes like your needs turn into your wants. Like, oh, I only want to work so much today, and then do these things later. But maybe the next day it turns into, okay, well, I want to work more than I did yesterday because I want to, instead of because I need to. Is that something that kind of gets
Can I ask a
tossed in
clarifying
there?
question?
Yeah, please.
What business do you do?
I work here for Kelly.
Okay, and what's your role?
I'm a bookkeeper.
Okay, and do you have days whenever you think there's more that you could do?
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you want to do more, and sometimes you're like, man, F this, I want to go have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Neither one is right or
Right.
wrong.
Sure.
We're humans.
Yeah.
I don't know quite how to answer that. I guess, my experience has been, I've been fortunate enough to get paid for how hard I work. The harder I work, and you're both, all three of us, same way. Entrepreneurs, the harder we work, ideally, the better the revenue is. And if I've had a good quarter, good year, good month, whatever, I can back off a little bit. I just know that when it comes to needs and wants, for my personality, I need to be successful. I want to be successful. I want to grow a business that takes care of generations of my family. That they are building statues, naming buildings, and carrying on a legacy that I started and created. And I want that for my team as well, to be a part of something that becomes so much bigger than us, that when they say the name of our firm, or when they say the work that we did, it is thought of with respect and dignity, and just so much success that they look at it and say, there's no way this dipshit from Jeanette that only went to Pitt Greensburg was able to create that. And so that's there's an old saying that a guy saw a buddy of his that he hadn't seen in a long time, and his buddy says to him, "You know what, Will? I haven't seen you at the bars in a long time." He says, "You know what, Steve? I haven't seen you at the bank in a while either." And that's kind of been it's a mic drop phrase, but I'd rather be seen at the bank, and that's kind of just been, maybe I do miss out on some fun stuff, but to me this is fun, and when they're pulling the name off the curtain off the building and my name's up there, that's to me going to be what ultimately was the most fun.
I think you
I'm like-
find your why, right? And so I talk about the ikigai in the book. Anybody heard of that before? What am I good at? What does the world need? What can I get paid for? And what do I like doing? And so try and find what that is. And whenever we're in an individual contributor role, there's an opportunity for us to ask the person who's signing our time card and be like, hey, can you help me understand how I fit into the bigger picture? And I did a keynote in Chicago last week, and I came up with this STEADY framework, STEADY. I don't remember what steady means, but it was really good. But it was that's we'll get into the second edition of the book. But it's the concept of, hey, if I do my work, what happens, and how are we positively impacting people down next step, and try and go like 10 steps down the road. And that might be the clients, then their families, and then their companies, and then the other people that they come in contact with, maybe their four-legged family members. And what happens if I don't do this? And what are those impacts? Maybe there's financial, fines for not getting work done. Maybe, a job site is going to be stopped, a business is going to be stopped. How's that going to impact the families and their lives? Are they not going to be able to buy their dog in December because of those kind of things? And it's okay to say, hey, boss, can you help me understand? This is what we talk about with the champion role, sometimes the supervisor around that. So it's never a bad thing. And then also think about, the team piece. And we're all a chain, right? And a chain is as strong or as weak as the single link. And so do you want to be that person that says, shoot, I didn't do my stuff, and what else happened as a result of me not getting my stuff done? If you're like, hey, I think I'm in a decent place for today, and I can bounce, I can get everything else done tomorrow, or just raise your hand and be like, hey, I got this stuff to do, and just kind of share those pieces, and I'm pretty sure you'd be like, yes, go, it's okay, or no, I need you to get this done, it's not okay to bounce yet. But I think just communicating early and often and consistently and being transparent about what's going on, but also asking about that larger why. And sometimes we need help from others to truly understand how we fit into that larger puzzle piece.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, and it's obviously you're here and we talk a lot about it, but I think it's important to acknowledge when you say those things like, yeah, how do you fit in? And it's just that it's like everybody is a part of a bigger team. And to be, bluntly honest, I think what sometimes also gets, you guys mentioned at the beginning, no matter where you're at in your role in life, everybody has days where they wake up and think, gosh, I don't want to do this today. And if you don't say that, you're lying to yourself. Or you
haven't had enough days yet.
Right. Yeah, or you haven't had enough days. I mean, everybody, so my thing is permission to say, some days you just do feel a little bit better about, kind of diving in and hitting things. And then other days, for whatever reason, maybe it was, life, whatever, some days it's just a little bit harder. I think the long-term success is the people who say yes more times than no. And it's really the longer you go down your career is I just said yes to getting my butt moving in despite of all of the things, because everybody's got a story for why they have something that should be the reason that they stay stuck. But we choose to be a victim. And we don't choose to be victimized. Things happen to people, but we choose to sit. And we choose whether we're gonna say, oh yeah, this happened to me and that's why I can't, or we move on and move forward and become better versions of ourselves. And that's, everybody gets that choice, no matter what happened to you.
So along with the book recommendations, I also have a list of quote recommendations.
It's got a list.
Of course. And one of the quotes is not actually a quote, but it's more of an infographic around those brain chemicals. And so we can do things consistently that actually feed positive vibes into our head. And this was a trial and error whenever I was in a very toxic work relationship. And I Googled, how do I feel better in a shit work environment? Right? One of the things that came back was
Brent, put your phone down.
The Amy Cuddy, power positions, right? How do you do those? So I do those on the way into the office. Prayer was a very important thing. Rosary. I'd have a fun times playlist where you're singing these different things. You get out, you get your walk and your sunshine, you get that dark chocolate, you get that cup of coffee, you do those couple of things. So you can just Google brain chemicals and what are they and how do you do them, and figure out hey, what are a couple of things for you. So whenever you feel yourself going into a little bit of a dark place, which is it happens, to figure out what are those things that you can try on for size. It might even be hey, I just gotta go to Chipotle. I don't know about you guys, but anytime I go to Chipotle, it puts me into a good mood. Yeah.
Jackson is a big fan over there. Every day with the Chipotle. All right. Hey, guys, I think this was great. And everybody here still open for questions, whatever. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.